going to leave that for a little while. Oh, yes. Let me see if I can find that. Where's that? See if I can find it visually. Here we go. This is the tree of life that I was talking about. See how nicely it branches? You know, first we get a segmented worm down here, and then eventually they get vertebrate, jaws, fingers, an amniotic egg, hair, placenta, and opposable thumbs. This is so oversimplified compared to my bush.
Yeah.
This is the bush with all of the dead wood trimmed.
Yeah.
And you really have to know. I'm driving this point home because if you don't know that, then you can get yourself into trouble. Lots of things we can look at. Okay. In terms of how things developed, the first organisms that were found are bacteria, and we can only know them indirectly by what are called stromatolites. Clusters of bacteria build up concretions, and you may have seen these. There's an area in South America which looks like somebody came down and just put down a bunch of small tires, because that's about the size of these things. But those are made by bacteria, and we find those fixtures way back in time. We don't see the bacteria because they don't fossilize well, but the thing that they made remains behind. So we think that bacteria in the earliest life forms occurred, how many millions of years ago? Oh, say 600 million years ago. The sand dollar that I have up here is from the Pliocene. I should put that back up. 3 to 5 million years ago. And it was from Madagascar. This is a ammonite, It's basically a nautilus shell. But I thought it was absolutely lovely. You can pass these around if you want. It's from the Jurassic 165 million years ago. The trilobite that I have here is from Morocco, and it's 350 million years old. This is very interesting. Little lines that branch. It looks sort of like a sea pen, if you know what that is. It's a fossil crinoid, and it is about 400 million years old. Now, remember last time I told you about how things might fossilize, and I told you that one of the ways they can fossilize is as an impression, not the actual fossilized bones, but an impression, which is why this article came out about the fact that they thought they found a non-flying dinosaur with feathers. And not only that, the feathers had the shape and had some characteristics which matched modern feathers of a certain color. And so they fancifully drew this picture of, two dinosaurs that look like they were velociraptors, actually, that have feathers. How about humans? Are we still evolving? Hint. Yes, we are. For instance, one of the simplest...
Is that a recent magazine or?
2010, October. It's fairly recent, I guess. Where was I? Oh. So we have some evidence of the earliest single cells. When did single cells get together and form a group? Well, it turns out that there are some algae. This is in your handout. If there's a predator in the water, they will swarm together and form a sphere. as protection. So that, and I think I may have mentioned this before, I don't know whether or not they had any defenses or if it was just trying to get so big that nothing could, wrap itself around them and eat them. It turns out that if you remove the predator, it remains a sphere. And when they divide and multiply, they stay spherical. So we think that's a pretty good suggestion that going from a single cell to a multi-cell organism was a protective mechanism. Once you have a multicellular organism, some of those cells can devote themselves to specific sub-functions of a living animal. For instance, if you start out with something that's made up of lots and lots and lots of little cells, one of the things you can do is you can open up part of it and form a cup. The cup is now where food comes in and gets digested, and the remnants of the food get spit out. So we now have a mouth/anus.
Yeah.
The next thing that we find in the record are worms. And what is a worm? A worm is a tube. It has a mouth and it has an anus at the other end. It doesn't spit things back out. And what happens next? Well, this is metaphorically speaking and completely, you won't find, never mind. What's next? If you have a cell over here, for instance, that becomes light sensitive, and if you add any kind of propeller to the bottom of this, like a flagellum, you now have something where it will know whether it's day or night. If it's daytime, swim to the surface, get as much. Remember, this is an algae form. These are photosynthesizing. Or else they're eating things that photosynthesize. So if you have something that is on one side that is sensitive to light, you now have top, bottom, left, and right. You're now starting to get the, you're going from a single cell which has no no strict axis of symmetry. You're going to the multiple cells which has, a spherical form and does not have a north, south, east, or west. You go to the tube form, and now you've got a front and a back, or a top and a bottom. And if you add anything that's different on one side, you now have a left and a right. The next thing that happened, we believe, was a genetic change probably in what are called the homeobox genes, the Hox genes. These are the genes that control development. And what happened was you went from tube worm, which is all, every one of the cells is the same. You went from that to a segmented worm. And the segmentation was a huge change. What it meant was, now not only can you have a cell out here that's sensitive to light, for instance, but you can have a segment that has a completely unique function. And this is a worm. But let's put the photosensitive things at the top and go like this and go like that. What do you have now? You have a four-legged walking thing. Yeah. Now it has eyes, a mouth, and an anus, and four flippers or fins or appendages, if you wish.